Hello and welcome. I'm the Tin Man, and this is gonna be different, much different than what you're used to. Now, I don't know if you know or not, but I am a Christian. I'm a follower of Jesus. So, well, the thing is, I haven't really shown that, and I feel like I should. And so, what this is gonna be is that I'm going to have a sermon from my church, a sermon playing in the background, and I'm going to be playing this. I'm not going to talk. At least I'm going to try not to talk. And I'm going to just record the sound of the sermon, just the sermon being preached, and you have me playing games to watch while the sermon is being preached. So that's the premise. Now, I'm not going to always do Don't Starve. Next sermon may just be, I don't know, Mountain Blade, or the next may be Total War. I don't know. I'm trying to find a good, you know, I'll mix it up a bit. But each sermon, it's going to last about 3 episodes. I'm going to try to make them about 10 minutes long, about, maybe. I'll see how that goes. Or I may just have it in one episode. So, yeah. So let's get this. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have in the description the link to my church's website, and I'm going to have the name of the sermon and the person who preached it, Reverend Johnny Prosky. And so let's listen.
Does anybody watch Spike TV? Not at all. I'm the only one. Well, we'll get there. Okay, well, there are certain TV channels on TV, like the We channel and the Own channel, and possibly even TLC, that are really more geared towards women, right? And you'll find things like the show Say Yes to the Dress, and Dance Moms, and America's Next Top Model, and The Bachelor. These are shows that are very much geared towards women, and we men have absolutely no interest in them, nor do we understand why you have an interest in them. But for us men, we have channels like Spike. And on this channel, there is a show called The Deadliest Warrior. And I'm not on. Are we on up there? Should be. Oh, you know what? I haven't plugged in my computer. I'm sorry. Totally my bad. We're going.
And now here he just takes a few minutes to get it. Well, not a few minutes, just a minute or so to get it all set up.
There it is. Yes, he did. Well, he reminds me is what he does. Okay. Deadliest Warrior, right? Has anybody ever seen this show? Nate has. Ben has. Anybody else? No. Okay, well, I'm going to give you the full series here in a second, so you won't miss anything. The thing is that this is a very, very cool show. It's what they do is they take these warriors, right, that never actually fought in real life. Maybe they were from different areas on the map. Maybe they were from different time periods. And they take these two people and they say, wow, what would it be like if these two fought? Okay? Things like a Viking and a samurai, or a Spartan and a ninja, or Alexander the Great and Attila the Hun. These guys that had never really met, they were from hundreds of years apart, and what they do is they look at their armor, they look at their weapons, they look at their training, and they bring in all of these specialists, these historians, these doctors, and these weapons experts, and they punch all this information to the computer, and they run these scenarios, and they see who would win the fight. And at the very end of the episode, after they do all this stuff, they have a little clip and they actually act out what it would look like if these two guys fought. And it's really, really cool. Now, all the women in the room are saying, wow, that sounds boring. And all the men are like, wow, what channel was that again? But it's a cool show, and I love it. And now, point to this. This morning, what I want to do is I want to have a Deadliest Warrior episode of my own. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at two groups of people, We're going to look at their weapons, their training, their armor, their background, and we're going to see who would win. We're going to see who would be the deadliest warrior. And the two contestants for this morning is man versus the man of God. So, we're going to be in Daniel chapter 6. Daniel chapter 6. We're going to start at verse 1. While you're turning there, let me give you a little bit of background about Daniel. In the year 587 BC, God had had enough with Judah's rebellion, and he chose to use the nation of Babylon to come and to conquer Judah and Jerusalem as a punishment to the Jews and as a wake-up call. Not only was the city of Jerusalem destroyed, but the temple of God was burned to the ground, and the majority of the people living there were taken as prisoners in exile to Babylon. One of these prisoners was a young boy by the name of Daniel. Now, Daniel grew up and he was trained along with his three companions, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, which many of you may know from other scriptures in Daniel. And they were trained up to serve the king of Babylon. Now, very quickly, Daniel proved himself to be a man of wisdom and a man that was holy unto God and to God alone. And because of this, the Lord blessed him, and he grew in favor not only with God, but with the nation's leadership. To the point where when Babylon was conquered by the Persians and the Medes, the new conquering king promoted Daniel to a very high position. And that is where we find Daniel at the beginning of Daniel chapter 6. By this point, he's about 80 years old, almost maybe 90 years old. It's a little bit iffy, but he's getting there. He's not a little boy anymore. He's at the end of his life. And even though he is near the end of his life, his greatest contribution to the kingdom of God is yet to come. So we're going to start in Daniel chapter 6, starting at verse 1. The Bible says, "It pleased Darius," that's the king, "to set over the kingdom 120 satraps," they're like little governors, little mayors almost, "to be over the whole kingdom, and over these 3 governors, of whom Daniel was one, that the satraps might give an account to them, so that the king would suffer no loss. Then this Daniel distinguished himself above the governors and satraps, because an excellent spirit was in him, and the king gave thought to set him over the whole nation." So Darius, this new king, is setting up the system of government so that he can control his conquered people better. So he appoints 120 of these satraps, and above those 120, he puts 3 guys. One of them is Daniel. Darius liked Daniel the most, and he even considered putting him above all the rest, which made the satraps and even the other governors, the other administrators, very jealous. So we see in verse 4, "So the governors and the satraps sought to find some charge against Daniel concerning the kingdom, but they could find no charge or fault, because he was faithful, nor was there any error or fault found in him." So number one, as we look at each of these groups' weapons, we see number one, the schemes of man versus the character of the man of God. Daniel was a man of character. He was a man of integrity. The Bible says they could find no charge or fault. He was not corrupt. He was not deceitful. He was not self-ambitious. Because he was faithful. He was trustworthy. He was consistent. He was loyal. Nor was there any error or fault found in him. There was nothing wrong with this guy. They looked, they searched, and they could find nothing wrong. And throughout Daniel's life, his success was due to his character, not his ambition. He didn't have to kill anybody to get where he was. He didn't have to accept a bribe. He didn't have to butter up a king or lie about his abilities. He was simply a man of God. And that character, those characteristics, those traits, was what made him set apart from everybody else, even by the pagan kings. He was simply a man of integrity, a man of God. And in every situation, he turned to God. And every success, he praised and glorified God. And with every king, he always bowed down first to God. And so God blessed him, and the leadership around him greatly noticed his character and his trustworthiness, and they blessed him too. While the satraps were obviously willing to look outside their own self-betterment for their ambition, instead they were seeking to point out the faults in others to make them seem better. And their tactics seem to have been effective before, because right now they're in some pretty high positions. They're one of the top 120 highest ranking people in